Welcome to another edition of Everyone Hates Us, a podcast dedicated to the art of winning and the beautiful sport of baseball. Today is a very special day. Well, I guess this week is kind of a special week for baseball. It's MLB awards season, which means that basically all the regular season awards you can think of are on the line this week. We just kicked it off with Rookie of the Year yesterday as the Yankees' Luis Heel and the Pirates' Paul Skenes became the first pair of pitchers to win Rookie of the Year in their respective leagues for the first time in, it feels like Dan, do you know the number? It's like 30 years or something, right?
I don't think it's 30. There was one, I think the Jeremy Hellickson year I saw that they had won twice. So that was 2011.
Okay, yeah.
But before that it was, I think, Fernando, the 81. So it's the second time in 40 years, 40 plus years.
Wow. That is, whew, they do not like pitchers. Rookie of the Year voting. You know, it's funny. If you look on Instagram, there's a bunch of comments on the post about Jackson Merrill was robbed, and I'm not sure these are Padres fans so much as they are jilted Jackson Merrill futures bettors who are very disappointed. He was at very good odds to start the season, or very strong odds, as in like he had very good chance of winning it to start the season. And I know people saw Paul Skenes coming in. I just don't think everybody saw him coming in and being in contention for the best pitcher in baseball, right? So, like, Dan, I don't know. What do you think about Paul Skenes' season?
I mean, I've said it multiple times on the podcast at this point. Yeah, like he was in contention for best pitcher for a while there when he first came in. It was a sight to behold, and it became like must-watch TV for a while there just to watch Skenes pitch. I almost diverted my road trip coming out here to Chicago by an extra day or two just so I could stop in Pittsburgh to see him. So yeah, I think it's well deserved, despite the great year, the loaded field in the NL. It was the two young Jacksons in second and third, but Shota Imanaga had a great season, and God, I'm blanking on the rest. But there's like a solid 6 candidates that probably would have been at least finalists in the AL, if not challenged Heel for the AL crown. Like it was, but Skenes winning it among them feels right. Like despite Merrill having slightly better WAR, I think the dominance that Skenes came in with was undeniable.
Definitely. And it's really interesting. Rookies who have great seasons, their rookie card, in the world of collectibles, their rookie baseball card is worth a ton of money. And right. Especially these kind of like parallels where or what I mean by parallels are shorter printed cards that might not be that might be 1 out of 1 or out of 10 or out of 50. Well, there's a 1 of 1 Paul Skenes debut patch card, and these patch cards are kind of like probably the most sought after products in Topps. So Topps Chrome Update 2024 has the Paul Skenes 1 out of 1 MLB debut patch card that's signed by Paul and is apparently out there in circulation right now. And I bring this up not because I'm an avid collector and a psycho, but because the bounty that the Pittsburgh Pirates are putting on this card is insane. Okay, I'm just going to read off the stuff that they are offering in exchange for this pro debut patch card. Okay, so the Paul Skenes 1 out of 1 pro debut patch card, if you bring it back to the Pirates, they'll give you a pair of season tickets behind home plate for the next 30 years. A softball game for you and 29 of your closest friends at PNC Park, along with Pirates alumni to act as coaches. I know one very specific Pirates alumni I would like to be coaching me. He was a pretty good dual threat guy who ended up hitting mostly for power once he moved to San Francisco. A private tour at Pirates spring training next year, and a chance to take batting practice and warm up with the team. A meet and greet with Paul Skenes himself, 2 autographed jerseys, plus other unique experiences, TBNL. So, guys, if you're a Pirates fan, go ahead, Murph. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think you're kind of focusing on the wrong thing when a story like that leaks. And for me, it's like, what alien came to this world and what happened to Bob Nutting?
Yeah, I mean, 2 season tickets for 30 years, like, I would really like to see how that's written out in contract language, because if they just like, all right, but we're going to sell your playoff tickets, right? Like, And she's just like, what playoff tickets? But like that's
I was
it is
thinking
definitely.
about Bob Nutting yesterday because Skenes winning the Rookie of the Year means that his arbitration eligibility ends in 2029 instead of 2030.
That's right. Yeah, he gets the automatic. Whew. Bob Nutting is sweating right now. Nutting is sweating because Paul Skenes, and it's that arbitration number is going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, like these numbers are not going to comp well in arbitration for
This is
Bob.
why you do what the Diamondbacks did. You sign the guy to the extension past that point before they win Rookie of the Year. And then you end up saving on both ends of this whole thing, and you keep them longer. That's just a rookie mistake. Bet on your boys.
Your boy was extremely unproductive to start the season. That contract looked pretty bad, like starting out, but he came around. Yeah. Of course, we're talking about Diamondbacks phenom Corbin Carroll, who had a pretty rough start to the season before he and the rest of the D-backs woke up in the second half of the season for a pretty terrifying stretch run there. Well, we're off topic because the big thing that's happening on top of all the awards is the Baseball Hall of Fame ballot came out yesterday. And we have here, those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, we have the ballot here, or the new entrance to the ballot. And then we also have the past year ballot. I can pull that up when we get to talking about that. But this year, we've got, 14 at least. And I guess theoretically, everybody's eligible, right? Like, am I wrong about that? Everybody's eligible who's has been away from or has retired for, was it 5 seasons?
I think you have to play for 10 to
you have
qualify.
To play for 10, okay.
Yeah.
So any 10-year vet, technically, I think is eligible, given you've been removed from the game for enough time. But here's 14 of the most notable, and I'm just going to go down a roll call here for our listeners who are listening to this in their car or what have you. Carlos Gonzalez, Curtis Granderson, the Grandy Man, Felix Hernandez, King Felix, Adam Jones, Ian Kinsler, Russell Martin, Brian McCann, sorry guys, I'm sorry, Dustin Pedroia, Pee Wee, Hanley Ramirez, Fernando Rodney, Murph, you might remember that name, CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, way to bury the lead here, Troy Tulowitzki, and Ben Zobrist are 14 top of the ballot for your consideration in 2025. So, fellas, right off the bat, like, it's kind of funny, like, baseball's Hall of Fame is really stingy. It's tough. Okay, is it the toughest one out of the major sports? Like, what's the best Hall of Fame? What's like the most meaningful? And I'm sure, and I don't want to cast aspersions toward any other Hall of Fame. Sorry, basketball. When I talk about, it's a huge honor to be inducted into the Hall of Fame of your sport, no matter how easy it is to get in or hard it is to get in. We don't want to take away from that. But guys, what are the best Halls of Fame? Like, what is the best Hall of Fame? And I'm like including like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, which one would be the one that you definitely want to get into?
I mean, certainly not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, what?
Come on, Murph.
There's so much non-rock in there that they kind of, I think, forgot the purpose of what they're doing. Me personally, I think the NFL has the nicest balance between kind of rewarding a bunch of different positions, and I think they kind of keep things a little bit more on the field. I do think the MLB is the toughest one to get into, but I think it's also due to the sanctimonious like nature of the voters that like keeps a lot of people out. And so I think like for that reason, and obviously, I mean, the easiest one, I mean, pro basketball's gone. Like, yeah.
Is it better or worse than the WWE Hall of Fame? Because I believe Snoop Dogg is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame.
I was sticking to sports, sorry.
Okay. I mean, that is technically sports entertainment. So because, these Hall of Fame, no, it's a big deal, guys. It's a big deal to get into these things. And like,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, like, Dan, do you have an opinion? Like, between NFL and MLB, which one do you prefer? Is it those two?
I think it has to be, but for me, it's baseball. Despite the, like, I do think that a lot of guys have been left out due to, as Collin said, the sanctimonious like gatekeeping by the voters, and we can get into that. But yeah, I think despite that, I think the the exclusivity does add something to it. Like, you know that the guys that are in there, for the most part, there are some notable exceptions, are the best of the best. And yeah, it is a true honor to be included among them.
It is definitely, it has this vibe of being the most esteemed. You know, baseball has this aura about it, and I think the sanctimony of the voters almost kind of plays into that, where you're kind of like, okay, these stodgy old guys who refuse to vote like first ballot on anybody, you know, decided to vote you in. It's like a big deal. It's a huge honor. Obviously your name is remembered and immortalized forever. And there might be like marketing opportunities, or you can slap Hall of Fame in front of your name, kind of like a Mr. or Mrs. or Sir or Doctor, you know, like, so it's pretty cool to do that. Now, us normal Joes or regular Joes, we'll never make actually, Murph, you know, it was funny. I was thinking about this question and I was like, Murph might be in a Hall of Fame. So we'll never be in the Hall of Fame, but if we were, what Hall of Fame would you be in? And I legit thought about this because I was like, where did I put what? And I just like have fun with it. That was the question I put on the notes. And I just want to clarify that Murph probably, if you're not, and if it is a thing, I don't know. I'm asking actually. Are you in the Caltech Athletics Hall of Fame? Like, okay.
I mean, who knows? My commentary career could get me the late entrance, but I mean, I wasn't that good. I did play 100 games, and obviously was a big part of the team that broke the streak. But I mean, there are far better players and far better athletes in their own discipline. I think it'd be a little rude to have me be in that list.
Well,
so
like,
yeah.
And Murph, all due respect to those guys, and I know that there were some cats who could really ball, but all due respect to those guys, you were part of a cultural shift for Caltech. It was a big win that you guys had, your first conference win since
85.
like before the fall of the Berlin Wall. Like when
85.
the Berlin Wall still existed was the last time you guys had a conference win. So when you have those types of like huge kind of landmark occurrences in your sport, and that brings, you know, all these headlines and national relevance to your program, you know, I always thought that, you know, that Murph should get in. So that's my stumping for Collin getting into the Caltech.
It's actually funny
Athletics
you
Hall of
mentioned
Fame.
that, because the guy who scored, he was an all-region player, scored half our points in that game-winning game. He was a senior, Ryan Elmquist. He actually just got put in a couple weeks ago, the Caltech Athletic Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Elmquist. Yeah.
So that was really exciting. Yeah. So, yeah, they are recognizing like that team, I guess. They're just recognizing the better players on it,
Murph, you know,
as they should. So
Jordan and Scotty got him first, but Rodman wasn't that far behind. All right, let's just put it that way. You know, like, all right, enough joking about Murph. All right, so what Hall of Fames, and then I'll tell you guys what my real Hall of Fame for Murph was. Murph is in the amazing how like culturally sensitive and actually cultured he is, like the most underratedly culturally sensitive dude. You would think that a guy who, and I don't mean this in like a Murph is actually a racist or something kind of way. Like, I don't mean to imply anything by this.
We're starting this though.
That's not what I'm implying. What I'm implying is this guy was he grew up on fishing boats in Alaska. Okay, like he was just away from everything, you know, and they have a different mentality out there. If you're from the mainland versus like Alaska and Hawaii, it's like a different mentality. And I was always really surprised to see just how cultured he is, and how worldly he was, given the fact that, you know, he did spend a lot of time out on the sea. You know, it's not like he's flying to Paris and Tokyo. You know, like he's out on a boat. So I was really surprised to see just how accepting he was of kind of different cultures and how excited he was to try new foods. Like, you know, you guys know in my previous job, I was eating out a lot and trying a lot of different different food. And Murph was always game to eat Chinese food, no matter where it came from. And he was, I think his favorite, we can give them a shout out. Your favorite Chinese place in SGV is it still China Islamic?
China Islamic is where me and my wife go a lot. Yeah. It's funny because we actually found that place independently, even though we went to undergrad together. Different friend groups, no communication between each other. We both independently liked that place. Found out later that we both actually liked it, and then we'd start going. So, but yeah, that place is pretty dope. Big fan. Yeah,
that's really cool. and just so for our listeners, this China Islamic is a Uyghur, it's Uyghur cuisine, which is from the west of China. Uyghurs, unfortunately, have been making headlines for kind of rougher reasons about, human rights abuses and stuff out there. But their cuisine is actually quite unique. They use a lot of lamb, mutton, spices that you would find more in the Middle East. And they have something called a sacha sauce that I think was the thing that Murph would order, the lamb with the sacha sauce. It's the craziest thing. So that's my thing about Murph. I was like, he's in the Hall of Fame of like white guys who will like blow your mind at like just how cultured and how open they are to other cultures. So that's my. See, I told you I wasn't going to make you out to be a racist, Collin. I'm just making everybody else out to be a racist. So
you kind of implied everyone I grew up with was.
I'm not implying shit. Come on. I'm just saying you would never expect that from a dude who spent his childhood on a fishing boat. Like.
Do you not see how I'm implying what I'm gathering? I appreciate the comment about me specifically, but I don't know what that means about the other people I was around.
I'm just surprised. Calling me surprised. The suburban LA boy, an Orange County kid. I was definitely a lot more closed-minded than Murph ever was about food. So that was a really cool Hall of Fame. And then Dan's in the freaking. I can't believe you know that Hall of Fame. Like it's just like, why do you know that Hall of Fame? I think we went, the one time we played trivia together, we won, right? It was.
I have won trivia a few times, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but Grievous, I think it's the one time you came out to T-Boils. I think you only played like once or twice with us, but we never lost when you came out there. I think one of them was the National Parks.
That's the National Park. I still remember that. This guy's like,
I remember that.
Crushed that.
The like, Starbucks in Seoul
Jeez, did not pull through on that one.
Really doing this right now.
Just for everyone on here, just to quote, when I floated the idea that Seoul could be there, he said, "There's not a single Starbucks in the whole fucking country." And
you know why? Because I was looking for one.
Other Korean coworker at the time, Chan, he came late, and we asked him the question. He's like, "What? Yeah, dude, you can't go like a block without seeing one."
This is ridiculous. And to explain myself, when I was in Korea, I was looking for a Starbucks because I have this drink at Starbucks that I drink every morning, and I was looking for it and just could not find one for the life of me. I was in Busan actually, which is a southern coastal city in Seoul, one of I think the second largest metropolitan area in South Korea, and I was just like, where is this Starbucks? I cannot find it. It's driving me insane. So I was like, Murph, there's no way there's a Starbucks in Korea. I couldn't find it, and I just gave up. Like, I think there's one at the mall. I don't know. At the airport, maybe. Turns out, I think it's the most Starbucks per capita, right?
Yeah, it is
in the whole world.
Yeah. Pretty funny. That was a good one. I came
Classic.
through on daytime soaps, though. Don't forget.
That is true. With 10 longest soap operas in the U.S. We were the only team that got more than 6, and crushed the whole category.
I'm the Rain Man of daytime TV. Okay. Oprah is the homie. So yeah, those are my 2 Hall of Fames for you guys. Dan is the holy crap, I can't believe this guy actually knows that Hall of Fame. And Collin is the man, this guy's really accepting and open of other cultures Hall of Fame. Because and Murph, I would argue, is more accepting of other cultures than I am. Like, he's just more down and more game to try stuff than I am. And that's coming from a food writer. So yeah, shout out to Murph, who will try anything once. Really will. So I appreciate both of you guys, and I wanted to kind of put that out there.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate the kind words, even if you were, slandering a lot of the people I grew up with.
Just take the fucking compliment, Collin. Like, all right.
Amazing how cultured he is growing up surrounded by racists.
It's your turn to compliment me, Dan. Dan and Murph, come on.
Well, I'm trying to think because I misunderstood the assignment and I only thought of what Hall of Fame I would be in. So I'm trying to come up with something for you.
But Dan, what Hall of Fame would you be in then?
I was gonna go with the most extra podcast. The background is quite eclectic, and I just keep adding to it.
I podium, but Collin's got a poster behind him, so I'm definitely standing at third. I think he's got a white wall behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Republica Dominicana.
Dan, what do you got as far as just improv?
Well, Okay, let's think. Well, you are very generous and very yeah. You have had very actually what you just did. Like you've had very kind words for us. I remember when the bachelor party was happening, and you sent out this document, a very thoughtful document about everyone, just breaking down how everyone was important in your life, and yeah, I thought it was a beautiful touch, and really helped sort of prepare everyone and bring everyone together, and that whole group was and I thought that was great, and that was Hall of Fame worthy for sure.
Thanks, Dan.
I'd like to echo that because actually, I think I mentioned to you as well that like when I kind of got married a little bit later, like for like a lot of people, like a lot of my friends had already gotten married and stuff. And I was pretty open about the fact that I was absolutely stealing things that people did from other weddings and bachelor parties. That, just seeing things that worked, things that didn't. And I mean, I straight ripped that off. And that's what ended up being on the groomsmen part for like, meet the on the website. So yeah, I absolutely stole that from you. I thought that was it was very touching. It was awesome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
I also say, the extra food, eating Hall of Fame. I mean, and you've never really been
That's
out there
the real
with
Hall of Fame.
until you spent about $40 on one piece of shumai, because that had to have truffle oil and a bunch of like gold links on it.
That's very true.
We're at Lunasia or whatever. It's not even not even like the highest scale. Like it's mid. Like it's a solid dim sum place, but I don't know about $40 shumai. That's a little rich for some people's blood, not rich for my man Euno's blood, though.
I'm really glad my wife's not listening to this because she would have my head on a stake.
That's very true. After one semester working every night together at the DT, the number of places that I frequented in LA just exponentially grew, and yeah, it made my the menu so much better.
I'm just blaming you guys are just blaming me for weight gain, and that's I find that extremely unfair. I think that's the real Hall of Fame. That's the one I'll gladly accept. I have a speech for it, and I'll go in. It's like I'm the guy who orders too much. Yes, it's wonderful. I get to try everything, and then blame everybody else on why I ordered so much. That's my favorite move. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, guys. That's really nice of you. So we have our like little personal Hall of Fames, but do we want to go back to actually, Murph? What Hall of Fame would you be in?
Oh, I mean, I don't really know. Like yeah, that's just difficult for me to think of. I mean, I'd like to think I'm in the T-Boyles Trivia Hall of Fame. I've been going there for over a decade. I've won like a solid amount. Team Putting the Sex and Dyslexia, has been going there for team name unchanged. Although I did switch it right after the MLB All-Star game to Ingrid Andress' sponsor. But outside of that, normally keep the same name. And, it's been a revolving cast of people that come with me. But we're going to go out there tonight again, try and defend our championship from last week. And, yeah, that's probably the biggest one. Just because, like, all the bartenders know me. The people that run trivia know me. Like, it's definitely one where I'm, like, very, very well known.
Pasadena Dive Bar T-Boyles is basically Cheers for Collin. They know his name for sure. That's true actually. Like I feel like you're one of the most dedicated trivia players. It's just like a weekly thing for you, so that's always awesome. All right, well, let's unless you guys have something else, let's move on to this.
No, I was actually waiting for the chance to disrespect half these first-time ballot people that have accomplished way more than I've done in my life.
Let's do it. Let's do the photo play. Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna go down this list real quick, and I just want your one sentence review of their career or their chances of making the Hall of Fame. Why don't we just do a draft, like a snake draft? And Murph, why don't you start with Cargo?
Cargo?
Yeah.
Not going in.
You're so nice.
He won't survive. He won't survive one ballot. The one thing I will give for Carlos Gonzalez is that like I like to wear my my old Diamondbacks jersey to Dodger Stadium. It's from back with the World Series winning colors, back when we were black, purple, and teal. And when the Diamondbacks are winning and run into some of those drunk, more aggressive Dodger fans, they all assumed it was always a Carlos Gonzalez Rockies jersey and that I was not a Diamondbacks fan. So I think he did avoid me getting into trouble in Dodger Stadium. But no, he won't survive a ballot.
I'd like to thank Carlos Gonzalez for not getting me stabbed. I actually owe him one.
I will say really quick. I won't cut in for all of them for the snake drafts, just in the interest of time. But Carlos Gonzalez had a really nice 2-3 year peak, like which a lot of these guys have, like which I think is there was I read the Athletic breakdown of the new nominees, and there's a weirdly high concentration of guys with like at least 2 or 3 like 6 WAR seasons, like they were genuinely a star for like a couple of years, and Cargo was one of them. He just fell off really hard, like a lot of these guys. But yeah, like but the peak is there.
So Cargo was part of that kind of exciting team with I believe it was Tulo and Ubaldo Jimenez was on that team. That was a good team.
Yeah. DJ Story.
I don't know if Arenado was.
Oh yeah, not that
team.
early.
This is like super early.
Yeah,
but he finished third in MVP voting.
The Tulo and Cargo teams were the Charlie Blackmon, maybe was he there already, or was that
not yet?
He's been there
he
forever.
wasn't at the top. Yeah, he wasn't at the top of the thing, but I think he was in the organization. I don't think he was playing major minutes.
Blackmon is the Rockies mascot.
Yeah,
if I think of Colorado, like that's who I think of.
I mean,
Cargo had some definitely took advantage of the Coors Field. Had some moonshots there. I actually remember some long home runs back when he was at his peak.
He was certainly a batter we feared, and I'll give him that respect. So Cargo, we'll pour one out for your Hall of Fame chances here. Dan, this is a fun one. Grandy Man, Curtis Granderson.
Granderson again had a nice peak. I definitely enjoyed him. He was a Dodger briefly, and yeah, he's not going to get in, but and I would be surprised if he makes it to a second ballot just because of the quality of some of the guys that have made it this year who might stay. But yeah, I don't see him getting too many votes, despite him being a very nice player and having. I think he had a 40 home run season with the Yankees and just had several very very solid seasons. But no, even within this group, I don't think he's gonna really rise from the. There's just too many guys.
2 40 home run seasons with the Yankees in 2011 and 2012. That was a great call. Grandy Man definitely had his pretty solid career, dude. All considered, 47 total WAR is.
Yeah,
nothing to sneeze at.
How many?
47 total across but this is a pretty long career. We're talking about 16 years. So
47 WAR is great, but yeah, it's not really Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, and then I get to take the mortal lock for the Hall of Fame.
I can do Felix.
If you have a problem with his career being short, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, keep going. My bad. I think my audio cut out.
No worries. And then we get to my turn where this guy is a mortal lock, Felix Hernandez, aka King Felix. If your name is King something, you're probably good at your sport. King James, King Felix. I can't think of other. I guess not the Sacramento Kings. So the Felix Hernandez he had a crazy peak. So again, this is like a huge, like a crazy peak, and then really ugly fall off towards the end there. And it was all in all a fairly short career, even it's like by pitcher standards. I think, let me pull it up. He's got 15 years, but like you guys know, the tail end of that, he spent a lot of it kind of scuffling. And so
it's around,
yeah, it was a tough one. He did play with Seattle his entire career, which is, I always like that. I love it when players stay with the same team. But yeah, I think this is a mortal lock. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. No question about it. Just one of the best pitchers we've ever seen. He's like the pitcher of a generation. You know what I mean? Like that was the guy where you were like, well, we're gonna lose, so not buying tickets to that game, but we're gonna get involved.
I don't think
you'll get in for.
More like
we're not gonna score any runs. So.
Yeah, more like a no decision 1-0 in the 7th. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Felix, but I don't think he'll get in first ballot. I think he'll eventually get in, but I think the like the peak was too short. I think CC Sabathia has a better chance of getting in first ballot than
That's a hot
Felix.
take.
I'm actually with Grievitz on this. I think Felix just needs to stick around, and once we hit around 2030-ish, I think he has a good shot, because I think we're going to start seeing a reevaluation of what we consider a Hall of Fame pitcher. I mean, guys just aren't even throwing 200 innings anymore. Like, you look at Felix compared to some of the guys right now, like Garrett Cole or even Chris Sale, like he's pitched 800 more innings than those guys, and those guys are all in their mid-30s already. Like, there's a solid chance he ends up with more career innings pitched than both those two, and like, especially someone like Sale, who could be pitching at 40. Like, Felix Hernandez, like remarkably known for having a very short career, could have more innings pitched than him. So I think there could be a reevaluation of all this that could benefit him. But I think he needs that Kershaw Verlander group to leave. You know, and then once you start looking at like, okay, who are the next Hall of Fame pitchers going to be, all of a sudden his like career numbers that people like the old school voters aren't going to like, it's not going to look so bad compared with, you know, a lot of the more this management. But I don't see how he gets in early. Like, the peak was too short, as Grievitz was saying.
Yeah, I'm looking real quick, and yeah, for example, CC has 62 career WAR, and there's two other pitchers who are sort of close to him that have been languishing on the ballot for a while that are also around 60, which is Andy Pettitte and Mark Burley, and Felix has 10 fewer WAR than them. Like, he had an amazing peak, and I think we all agree that he should be in the Hall of Fame eventually, but I would be surprised if he makes it in first, just because. Yeah.
In regards to Pettitte, though, like, Pettitte has PEDs, and like even his like WAR 7, like, or whatever, like, is actually lower than Felix's. Like, Pettitte's peak was pretty bad for a Hall of Famer.
Sure, yeah, I agree that I would put Felix. I would prefer Felix on my team than Andy Pettitte, and I would prefer him in the Hall of Fame over Andy Pettitte. But I think, I just think the peak that Felix had isn't strong enough to get him in first ballot. I think he'll eventually get in, and he should, but I don't think he will right away.
Okay, I mean, like, I obviously think that Felix holds a special place in the memory of a lot of people, and I'm kind of counting on that. And to Murph's point, there is kind of like that. They are crotchety enough, like the voters are crotchety enough to where they're like, you know what doesn't happen enough anymore? Pitchers pitching more than 190 innings in the season. It doesn't happen anymore. You know, you get 180, maybe 200 every now and then, but like, you know, and then they'll just kind of shove Felix along and be like, you're the most, like, you're emblematic for like 10 seasons. He pitched more than 190 innings per season, topping out like 240 something, I think. So 249. And so Felix is a workhorse on top of being an absolutely dominant pitcher. So I wanted to give him his flowers and let him know that, you know, there's a good chance.
I love Felix Hernandez. He was in my like keeper fantasy league. I literally had Felix Hernandez on my team for a solid decade. Like, I was very loyal to Felix Hernandez. I love him, but yeah, I don't think he'll get in first year. I think the crotchety vote would go to Sabathia if they're going to vote in a workhorse pitcher.
He's on my hypothetical ballot, you know, so I do agree with you, but I just don't think similar with Grievitz. I just think there's too many old voters. He doesn't have 200 wins, and that's a hard line for a lot of old pitching voters.
Yeah, and
that's
Sabathia's
such a
250
Byzantine standard of like.
I mean, that's the way these guys vote, though. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we don't, like, we can complain all we want about it. Like, there's a reason we can look at these indicators and you see if people are getting in or not. Like, these people value
I think
these
we
things.
all would vote for Felix, but these voters don't vote the way that we do.
Fair enough. Speaking of voters aren't going to vote the way, here's someone we can all agree on: Adam Jones. Dan, you're taking him. It's snake draft.
It's nice to see him mentioned. He was solid for a few years. He's not going to make a second ballot. But yeah, I mean, yeah, good, nice little career. He was part of that Eric Bedard trade, and was a you know, the Mariners fans were pissed that they traded him away for what, half a season of Bedard, but yeah. You know, despite his a couple of useful years in Baltimore, he shouldn't get in.
Career highlight, though, the 2017 World Baseball Classic catch is what I remember from Adam Jones. That was like the big, you know, You know what's nice? This exercise does turn into give this player their flowers. Like, obviously, Adam Jones is going to make the ballot next year, but give that player his flowers. So
yeah, I was at the 2017 final. Team USA won. It was fun. But yeah, Hall
I
of
was at that
Fame.
one too. First Puerto Rico. That was a great game.
Yeah. I didn't have anything USA, so I wore my Kike Hernandez Dodgers shirt.
I just wore my U.S. soccer stuff and my American flag bandana.
I wore my NASA hat.
Nice. That's about as American as it gets.
Yeah.
Sidebar: should they have like good WC merch, like WBC merch? I see those Samurai Japan jerseys; they look pretty sick. You know, like I think we should do better with the USA merch.
I think our USA shooting star like jersey isn't bad. Like all things considered, we put out worse national team things. Like the baseball one, I don't find to be too. I kind of like it.
Yeah, this
like
last Olympic basketball jersey was awful in my opinion.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we look like the Generals, just rebranded Team USA.
The Generals actually won those games. Murph, Ian Kinsler.
So Kinsler's actually funny that you're brought up 2017 because he also was a starter. He was a starting second baseman for the U.S. on that team. But I think he will stick around for a couple ballots. I think he'll struggle to get serious support. But I think this is a guy that people, it's weird to compare him to someone like Jeff Kent, but like where he like sticks around like with some solid percentage, but never really seriously threatens to get in. Kinsler, obviously, he's a 4-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, pretty well-rounded, player all the way around.
Some 30-30 seasons.
Yep. A great community guy, what's it called? He was very active off the field as well. I think that's going to buy him a lot of goodwill with the vote because I think what we're seeing a lot, especially with a lot of these new names, and especially a lot of the holdovers, like some of these guys, it's like a fine line defining, like, how you're going to vote on some of these guys because a lot of very equal cases. And so I do think some of this, like, off the field, other stuff is going to factor in on whether people survive a ballot or like kind of get off maybe a little bit earlier than they should have. So Kinsler, I expect to stick around for a while, but I don't think he's going to get strong, serious support.
Got it. All right. Well, Dan, I'm glad it landed on you. Russell Martin, what do you think?
Well, I like Russell Martin, former Dodger. He's not going to get in, but I think he's a better candidate than you gave him credit for in the intro. I think he has 2 6-WAR seasons in Fangraphs WAR. Like he's one of those guys that, based on his defense, like he has a pretty good peak. But no, he's not going to get in, and I doubt he'll come back for a second ballot. But yeah, a pretty solid player for many years.
I actually think he will survive a ballot. And I think a lot of this is, I think the analytic community has enough for the 5% votes. And
that's fair.
The Fangraphs people love his framing, like so much.
Yeah,
and their whole take is that like he's been underrated his whole career because he's like a god framer and he was not being properly rewarded for that. But I also don't think he's going to like seriously threaten getting in. But
I mean, finished 24th in MVP voting twice. Like that's our guy. Obviously also a huge Russell Martin
analytics
fan.
people like him though, and like I think that's gonna mean you only need 5%. Like I think that's enough to keep him on. And they would argue that the 24th in MVP is just an example of people not recognizing his value with framing. Because I think Fangraphs or someone put out like that he's like the 11th best catcher like of the last 50 years based off of if you add in like his framing stats.
Fangraphs loves him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's enough people that follow Fangraphs that I think that's going to carry over and get him over the 5% threshold.
I mean, you really gotta get all of them because it's gonna be you're gonna need to get all of them. That's the problem. Is you're gonna have to get consensus among the sabermetricians, and the Fangraphs and the analytics folk to get them across that line. And it's not crazy. Obviously, a huge fan of Russell Martin. I'll never disrespect this guy, like actually, But okay, from Russell Martin to a guy who another catcher, right? Brian McCann. What's weird? I think they have pretty close to the same number of reference WAR. Nope. Russell's got him covered by 6. So All-Star Silver Slugger for 6 seasons in a row. So another one of those like kind of woo, like, big peak, and then what happened type of guys. And yeah, not going to make it to the next ballot, I don't think. I think Brian McCann was highly regarded. And by the way, catcher is a dicey one because for the next, like, I can't imagine who's like that mortal lock Buster Posey kind of guy. Is it Real Muto? Like, who is that guy? Yeah, well, Yachty. Okay, besides Yachty, I'm talking about like for this generation because catcher's so
like,
thin.
Currently playing?
Yeah, like who's gonna be that dude? Like, it's not Will Smith. Like, I love Will Smith. I don't think it's gonna be him. So catcher's a pretty thin position. I think it's gonna be underrepresented in the Hall of Fame.
That's another one I think we're gonna see a reevaluation of because like catchers today just get rotated way more, and so they're never gonna sniff the batting numbers that like people kind of traditionally expect. I feel like there's also been a general pushback a lot in the analytics community and like a lot of the new age voters that catchers are already massively disrespected in Hall of Fame entrants and that everyone expects their bat when at the same time, like no team actually like prioritizes the bat that much at the catcher position as it's a defense first position typically. But yet like the Hall of Fame voters still want to see their traditional batting, like, benchmark stats. And you're just not really getting that from these guys. So I mean, I think that's another one. Also, if the automated strike zone comes in, all of a sudden framing becomes like pointless. So that's going to cause another reevaluation of how we're valuing catchers again. So I think, yeah, with everything going on, I think catcher is by far the most interesting position going forward into like how we're going to be viewing them 5-10 years down the line.
Like that. Well, this is another one. Dustin Pedroia. Let's go back down the line to Murph because I feel like we're not doing a traditional snake. We're just like going.
No, this is the most drunk snake I think I've ever seen. This is the most
painful because it's like Dan's just getting hammered. All right, let's go. Let's just go down the line. All right.
Pedroia is a guy that I think is going to stick around. I think anyone that wins an MVP and doesn't like has any other productions like Pedroia does. Like Pedroia did make an All-Star game in 3 other years. He was a Rookie of the Year. He did win some Gold Gloves. He has a Silver Slugger. So I think this is
another great peak.
Yep, exactly. I think we're starting to see like a bigger push for like in other Hall of Fames, specifically NBA, NFL, or whatever, where peak play over longevity is being valued. I think Pedroia is another person that if he can stick around the ballots until the 2030s, like maybe something could happen. I think he's going to have a stalwart like support though. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's, starts out like around 28, 35%, like baseline, and we'll see where he gains from there depending on ballot strength. Although I could be overrating his strength on this ballot. Like this ballot is very muddled in the middle, and how people choose to cut things, and like make snap decisions on certain people could factor in quite a bit.
Yeah, to chime in here a little bit, I think when we're looking at the ballot and we see these types of candidates who have one MVP and another maybe notable, one-of-one award like a Rookie of the Year, it's just hard to see what goes beyond that, right? And it's like Pedroia was a fantastic player, and he actually finished top 10 MVP voting twice aside from his MVP season. So he finished 7th and 9th, I believe. So when you have those types of stats and you have the type of like, long peak, because 51 wins in 14 seasons is not bad. And let's be real, like those last 2 seasons were a wash. So 51 wins over 12 seasons, pretty dang good. Like, I don't know, like, but to counter yours, Murph, like I've also seen where like it's not people being won over, it just stays stagnant. Like where it'll kind of hit like a point and then the voting plateaus and it just dies on the vine, over 10 years. If anything, it decays a little bit as new entrants come in and start pushing them off the ballot.
Yeah, I guess my thought on that typically though is that like once the older voters are getting replaced by younger voters, and I think younger voters are going to care more about peak play over like the career numbers. Like for instance, like there's never been a batter that's made the Hall of Fame with under 2,000 hits. Like, so anyone that views that as a hard line, like Pedroia is just automatically disqualified. So do I think new age like voters are going to care about that arbitrary line as much? Absolutely not. I also think Pedroia is going to suck up a lot more sympathy for his lack of longevity because of how, well, let's just say dirty of that slide Manny Machado put in on there. And like, you can almost directly correlate that with kind of his career falling off a cliff. I mean, there's one thing to kind of eat your way out of the league, like some people have, Eddie Lacy, Andrew Jones. There's another thing to kind of have your ability to kind of, you lose it because of kind of a cheap shot. So I think Pedroia is always going to have a little bit more sympathy for his lack of career numbers than other players that had the short peak and weren't able to produce it down the line.
Fair enough. All right. Dan, Hanram. Wow. I'm sure you have some strong feelings about this guy.
I mean, again, another very strong peak. He had some truly stellar seasons, including for us. Like when he first started with us, he was killing it. But yeah, I think he has 38 career WAR, which is just not enough for a Hall of Fame consideration. And especially with this, I would be surprised if he makes a second ballot. He maybe, I don't know. He was a lot of fun. He was a very fun player, a very exciting player. But yeah, he fell off hard. Like he was great with the Marlins and briefly he didn't do that. Did he do that well with the Red Sox? I forget. But with us, he bounced back and played well. But yeah, he's not a Hall of Fame player.
He was one of my 7 that instantly I was just gonna say not making a second ballot.
Yeah,
like
yeah. But again, his peak was genuinely really, really good. Like he had 2 seasons above 6 WAR, and then another one above 5, and then another one at like 4.9. Like he had several like genuinely really good seasons. But yeah, he did not keep it going long enough to make the Hall of Fame.
I only remember Hanley Ramirez for one thing, and you know what that thing is, Dan. He ruined possibly the best game ever pitched. By fumbling that grounder at short and screwing up Kershaw's perfect game. So yeah, it's baseball, but like I will only remember him for that. So hopefully some Marlins fans have something nice to say about him, because I don't have anything nice to say about him. I was excited when we got him. That was about it.
And he gave us a 5 WAR season. That's
thanks, dude. I would take. You can have all the 5 WAR back if you just make that play. Fernando Rodney. Oh man, this is a tough one. It's a tough one. I gotta sit on this a little bit. He was in the thank God they're putting him in Hall of Fame for me, because he played for the Arizona Diamondbacks. This guy just loved making nail biters out of uncompetitive games. It was a joy to watch him come in for the D-backs, and for me to just kind of sit and hope. Fernando Rodney was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, not going to make it probably into the next ballot. We get here now to, and I think we should roundtable this, these next 2. CC Sabathia, and we kind of talked about him earlier. He's got the longevity. I remember distinct quote on ESPN, somebody saying, CC Sabathia might be one of the first guys I've seen who really lives up to the contract, because he had one of the biggest contracts in history when he signed with the Yankees, and he was just a rock in that rotation for like a decade. Like he wasn't going to give you 2 ERA, but he was going to give you an ERA with 3 in it, probably strike out a bunch of dudes, which is rock solid. And he was beloved by New York, still is beloved by New York. I believe there was that thing where he had the incentive, and he blew it by he had like an innings pitched incentive, and he like threw at somebody. I forgot this instance, but like he basically gave up his incentive to throw at somebody, a contract incentive, and the Yankees ended up just giving it to him anyway. Like stuff like that, where he's just like a New York legend. So that's how I remember CC. Is like, unfortunately, he had an amazing career, an entire other career with the was it the Guardians when they were?
Yeah, with Cleveland and that one half season with Milwaukee where he had
that's right
several complete games and was in the Cy Young consideration in the NL despite only pitching like after the All-Star break.
Several complete games is crazy. It's crazy. He had 7 complete games with Milwaukee across 17 starts. That means it's like a little bit less than a coin flip whether or not he's going to go 9 today. Like, oh my gosh. baller. But yeah, Murph, any thoughts on CC?
No, I mean, I think the real question with him is I don't think he has enough to go first ballot. I think this is going to be a two-person class. But I think he's going to have a very strong showing, and I think there's a solid chance, not to get ahead of ourselves potentially, but him and Beltran end up making it next year.
Right on. Wait, you said this is a two-person class? Who's the second person?
Wagner. Wagner was
Billy
5
Wagner.
votes
No, okay,
short, and he's going to be on his last year of eligibility. Like, I just can't see the voters being that cruel. Like, although there were no voter changes, so if everyone voted the same way they did last year, he's still 5 short. But man, I can't imagine 5 short on your last year of eligibility. That'd be brutal.
He really should be in already. Like him not being included is the perfect argument to what Euno was texting us earlier about it being a regular season award. Because regular season, Billy Wagner, I didn't realize this until I was doing research for today. But like in the modern era, among left-handed pitchers with minimum 900 innings, he's the number one in ERA, WHIP, strikeout rate, opponent average, and opponent OPS. Like he is just number one across the board. And but in the playoffs, his ERA is 10. And and
Sorry,
yeah,
I shouldn't have laughed
that. So yeah, like he should have been in already, and yeah, hopefully, yeah, with 5 votes short and last year of eligibility, I think he'll get in as well. I'm hoping.
There has to be a special place in hell for voters who see that they're 5 votes away and be like, no, I'm gonna vote the same way I did last year. I have my convictions. You know, like there has to be a special place in hell for those people. Like 5 votes, he gets in. I'm with you, Murph. Moving on from number 2 on that class to the mortal lock. That is, I hope there is no question on this guy whatsoever, despite how much I dislike him. I love him as a player, dislike him as a representative of Team Japan. Mostly for like kind of the racist comments he's made about South Korean baseball players and stuff like that. Not a huge fan of Ichiro for that reason, but as a player, love him. When I was playing on the barbecue chickens, I would do the same. I would grab I would put the hand out with my bat, facing upward and tug on the chest part of my shirt to kind of mimic Ichiro's batting stance. Ichiro Suzuki, guys, let's round table. But like Murph, how do you remember him?
I mean, like, yeah, Ichiro. I mean, I think just kind of sticking with the candidacy first, and then kind of talk about like individual stories. But like the only question with him really is he going to be unanimous? No position player ever has been. So like we'll see if he's the first. He's the type of guy that you'd expect to be first, but I think we all thought about that with Jeter and Griffey and some of these other guys. So you know,
wasn't Jeter 1 vote shy?
Yeah, and
good.
You never know,
man.
Like sometimes there's. I honestly I feel for voters. Like if you actually believe there's like 13 guys on this like ballot, and you're worried your guy might not get enough love, you know, strategic voting. This is also the problem with the 10 vote cap limit here. But yeah, I mean that's the only real question that we have here. Outside Ichiro, I mean obviously being in Alaska, he was marketed very heavily in because he played in Seattle and those teams. You know, they had so much talent heading in there for a while, like Alex Rodriguez, you know, Randy Johnson, lost them both. Whatever, Ichiro comes in and like, you know, they have the 116 win season. You know, Edgar Martinez slowly starts to decline. You know, Ichiro still is that guy as Felix kind of comes into the league. And, you know, he's just kind of what I think of when I think of the Mariners in general. It's a shame that he had to go to the Yankees to kind of, you know, ruin the perfection up until that point. But I also always remember that video or whatever of him talking about playing in Kansas City in the summer.
Yeah. I'll allow it if you can do the accent.
I have no way am I doing the accent. Absolutely not. But anyone that wants to know what we're talking about, feel free to look up that video. It's pretty great. But yeah, I mean, the main thing I always remember about him, I guess the iconic thing, or just two plays in general. One of them is always him 3 steps down the first base line when he slap hits that ball into the outfield. And then the other is just his unbelievable flexibility, getting his whole body. Like, there's no way a guy that small should put that much on the ball. That dude had one of the best arms in baseball.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you could just tell he activates every part of his body when he's throwing that ball in there. And dude is an absolute monster. Obviously broke 3,000 hits. Like, there's nothing really else to be said about him. I mean, this guy, yeah, first ballot guarantee loss. Won
3,000 hits, and he all after the age of 27. Like he
was a rookie at age 27.
Yeah.
I will say I'm not a fan of like a lot of these Japanese professionals winning Rookie of the Year. I just think it's kind of disrespectful to like the league that they have out there. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Groot.
No, all good. That aside, say what you will about him winning in 2001, but he came in as an absolute phenomenon and basically just universally beloved. I agree, Murph. Like he will be in the high 90s in percentage wise. Like the only question is whether he'll be unanimous or not. I don't think he will, just because the writers are petty and I think I said Jeter missed by 1 and Griffey missed by 3. Like there will always be someone who will just not vote for him. But in terms of guys who could get close to unanimous, he is one of those guys. Just like Griffey and Jeter were, because they were undeniable. Like it's the sort of player that is very unique and in the way that really baseball showcases. Like he's we're looking at the graphic here, like CC Sabathia and Ichiro Suzuki, very different types of people, but they both excelled. Who doesn't love Ichiro? I have my Ichiro shirt here somewhere. I was thinking of fishing it out for today, but I'll save it for when he gets elected. I'm also a big believer in the Ichiro could have been a power hitter if he wanted to, but decided to just hit singles instead.
Yes. This is something that Ichiro himself has kind of purported that he would be able to do. Kind of funny that CC is 2.5 Ichiros. So it's really interesting that, Ichiro does have that great record. And I wanted to think about like this real quick. It grinds me. Ken Griffey has 3 votes short, and Derek Jeter only has 1. All that tells me is that 2 people died between that doesn't tell me anything. It's like, how many writers got replaced to the point where Derek Jeter is 1 vote off and Ken Griffey Jr. is 3? The gulf between Ken Griffey Jr. and Derek Jeter, Jeter, great Yankee, everybody loves him, blah, 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 all right? Ken Griffey Jr. was an icon. He was like Michael Jordan for baseball in the 90s, okay? Like, this guy is hands. If there was one person who should have been unanimous, like, in this era, it's him. It's like, no doubt, it should be Ken Griffey Jr.
Sounds like you don't have enough Ritupek,
You can Ritupek this foot up your ass. Like Ritupek, learn how to field at shortstop. Good God.
Griffey should have been unanimous.
Griffey should have been in.
Tons of guys were. I honestly, it actually blows my mind that a reliever is the one that actually
Mariano
broke the unanimous. That's insane. All the moaning about relievers not being failed starters from those crotchety old voters, and then that's the person that they chose to make the first unanimous guy. Wild.
I'm convinced like these writers are actually dying off, guys. Like, and it was like COVID that might have done it, where it's just like, okay, we just lost
that's dark.
You think I'm joking? Like, I think we lost a good amount of these writers.
I know you're not. That's why I said it's dark.
But we shouldn't be laughing at that. Anyway. Yeah, so I think we're kind of agreed that Ichiro's definitely getting it in, and he means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I think extremely importantly, he changed the perception of what a baseball player from Japan could be. Before that, it was Hideo Nomo, Hideki Irabu, like these players who were expected to be pitchers, and then here comes a position player, and he kind of opened the door for position players to be like, hey, you know what? Like NPB is not just a pitchers league. It's not just guys who can throw and have weird names for their pitches. It's guys who can hit, guys who hustle, who know the game, who have a head for this game. And I think that's kind of opened the door for guys like Matsui and, down the line for the Otanis and the Seiya Suzukis of the world, and so it's really, he was kind of like a bellwether for this big wave of Japanese players coming along. And his approach seemed very goofy and foreign to us back then, where it was like, this guy keeps his bats in a humidor and like, he's like taking this many swings a day, but it's like that level of attention to detail, that level of like dedication to your craft, and like he sleeps with his bats at night. Like this kind of like urban legendy kind of stuff is actually ingrained into the culture in Japan. It's ingrained into the Japanese baseball culture. It's super militant and super tough. So like, I think that's his lasting legacy, is like this huge wave of Japanese players coming over now. It's not just pitchers. It's guys who can hit. That's kind of like, I see that as a continuation. And he was like one of those, almost like breaking a barrier, not a color barrier, but like breaking a barrier for the way people think about the game.
That's actually, that point there is actually why I think he has a great chance to actually be unanimous, is just because he kind of is the, I don't know, I guess the bellwether, like kind of the face of the internationalization, the globalization of the game. And then specifically, if we're talking about, Japan, and honestly, you probably don't even want to hear it, but South Korea as well, but like Asian baseball players coming over in America, Ichiro coming in was a massive hit, was super popular, like all over, absolutely dominated. And he kind of is the face of that movement. And we've seen a lot more people come over, like, through the last couple years, or the last 2 decades, I guess, since he's done it. So that, I think, hit that feather in his cap, I think could be what makes him like that extra special, that he finally breaks this position player unanimous threshold that just can't seem to be broken by the most slam dunk of slam dunky guys. Maybe this slam dunky guy can do it,
And Griffey fucking Jr., guys.
Yeah.
3 votes shy. I want to meet those guys if they're still alive and just find out what's going on. Oh Lord. Okay, and then let's cap this up. We got Troy Tulowitzki, former MVP Troy Tulowitzki, and I believe he has an MLB The Show cover. Troy Tulowitzki,
did Tulo win MVP?
He never won MVP.
Tulo never won MVP.
No. He had a really good peak. Like he was really, really good for several years, but I don't think he won it. Yeah.
Oh, I need to fact check myself. No, he didn't.
No,
how do you
totally
have a cover of MLB The Show? I just don't understand. That seems very odd.
You said that so confidently. You actually had me like start to question it, and I was like, "There's no way he won MVP."
I got it confused because he didn't actually get the cover of MLB The Show either. I'm confusing with freaking Josh Donaldson. My God, I totally like swapped his career with Josh Donaldson's in my head. My bad,
Donaldson
guys.
won MVP.
I'm really sorry. Donaldson won MVP. I can't believe I got those two mixed up. That was embarrassing.
We're talking
about
all
getting cut, so we're just gonna pick it up later.
Dan, furiously Googling, like, are we dumbasses? Dude?
No, thinks Troy Tulowitzki is Josh Donaldson. Donaldson had the cover, by the way. That was him.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
But yeah, like Tulo, we keep talking about guys with really good peaks. Like, it feels like he has a 6.8 WAR season, a 6.5 WAR season, a 6.7 WAR season, a 6.2 WAR season, a 5.7, and a 5. Like, he has several really good seasons, but he only accumulated 44 career WAR. Like, he has, this is like the cover guy for what I've been sort of repeating over and over with all these newcomers. Like, really good peak, but he fell off again. And yeah, I don't think I think he'll stick around past this ballot, but I think there are better candidates already like returning on the ballot, and I think I think he'll be hard pressed to make it in. I think he'll drop off after a few years.
Same read. Yeah, you couldn't have said it better.
So you guys, I'm actually sticking around, which fair play to him, because he did have some crazy seasons. Our next one is Ben Zobrist.
No.
He was on that team though, right?
What team?
I'm not tripping. He was on the 2016 Cubs team.
He won back-to-back years, I think, with the 2015 Royals and the 2016 Cubs. Yeah, he was a very useful player. Yeah, WAR loved him for a few years there, but yeah, he's not gonna stick around.
I'd be shocked if he survives the ballot. Like, he's a super utility guy to an extent, but I mean, yeah.
Shout out to him being featured. Like,
great player. Like, honestly, very versatile.
Yeah,
not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It's a little thin looking at let's look at future years real quick. We kind of wrapping this up, and let's just take a quick look at future years. It's looking a little thin next year, and I want you guys to take a look at this. And this future eligibles list brought to you by the Baseball Hall of Fame website. We're looking at Ryan in 26. We got Ryan Braun, Shin-Soo Choo, he should get him in. Get my man Shin-Soo Choo in. I
Not
don't
a
care if it
chance.
takes 10 ballots.
That's
His
a
numbers
one
are
and
comparable
done.
to Jeter's. His numbers are comparable to Jeter's.
None of these guys are getting in
They
on
are
the screen right
absolutely
now.
not.
His numbers are comparable to Jeter's.
What
I'll
numbers are
die on that.
comparable to Jeter? He doesn't
None of
have
these
numbers.
guys are getting
Your
in.
batting numbers are comparable to Derek Jeter's. Okay?
0.
on like 1/3 the volume.
Okay, yeah, but like rate stats are comparable. Okay, so that's enough stuffing for Shin-Soo Choo. I can't do this anymore. 2027.
No, 2026. I honestly think it's Hamels, and I don't think
Posey.
anyone else. Oh,
Is it
Posey?
Hamels? No,
No,
this is
2027. Sorry.
Yeah,
this
I was gonna say
20.
2026. I think it's Hamels, and no one else survives the ballot.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
you see Hamels survives the ballot. You guys don't see Pork surviving the ballot one year? I know.
I'd be
Stop
surprised.
laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hamill survives. I'd be surprised if he. Well, actually, I haven't looked at Hamill's career numbers, but I don't think my mental. Let's see, cool, because he was really good, but I don't think he had that longevity either. But maybe with what you're saying, Murph, that eventually the reevaluation. Okay,
I think
59 WAR. Yeah, very
I think
solid.
for these
career.
pitchers, they just need to survive like
Yeah.
5-6 years on this ballot, and all of a sudden, like their career numbers aren't going to look so bad.
Yeah. No,
That's what I'm saying.
That's a very solid. Yeah. I'd
I mean,
take
we
it back.
better
I
hope
think
so,
Hamill
because
should.
otherwise it's going to be a lot of empty classes coming up, guys. Like, it's not looking great. All right. Like,
I do think there are some guys that are returning on the ballot that are going to keep trending upwards and make it as well. I'm a big. I keep telling everyone that Chase Utley should make it.
I don't see the argument for Utley.
He's all right.
I'll
he's
just
in the Hall of Fame for broking a motherfucker's leg.
I'll just
64.5 career WAR, which is above the average for Hall of Fame second baseman.
it's just I don't know. He doesn't have his career numbers aren't very high, and
His counting stats aren't. No.
he was never top 5 in an MVP race. He was never really had like that peak that you kind of want to see. I mean,
Not in
how many
MVP voting, but from 2005 to 2009, he never had a WAR under 7.3.
That's
He
pretty
was-
insane.
Yeah, he was
That's pretty
7.3, 7.3, 7.8, 9, 8.2, and then he followed that up with a 5.8 because he fell off a little. But he had a crazy peak. He was really good, and he accumulated a lot of WAR of his career. I think he will stick around and make it as the demographics of the voting pool change. He should be a Hall of Famer. He's
Any
definitely
of those
better than a
writers
lot-
remember what happened to Ruben Tejada's ankle or leg? It's not happening.
I think you're right. He is going to stick around for a while. Like his base percentage from the first year shows that he has that was a strong showing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
I hear you, but I think he should be a Hall of Famer at the very least. Is my argument.
All right. Well, I am scrolling through the eligibles through 2027 to see if there are any major locks. And I guess Buster Posey's definitely.
I think Posey gets
Posey's
in.
a
Yeah,
lock.
Posey's a lock.
They're going to
after
feel
that-
obligated to put someone in from that Giants team, and Posey's the only candidate at this point. Now
Yeah.
that Mad Bum fell off a cliff officially.
Yeah, and that was kind of my next question is some of these players who have had Hall of Fame resumes up until this point are now playing themselves out of it. Sorry, Mad Bum. That was a pretty rough contract with Arizona there.
Mad Bum is a Veterans Committee lock.
Yeah. Because he's stodgy.
That's a guy the Veterans Committee is going to like. Him and Kurt Schilling. Those are the type of people they like to put
That's
in.
true. Yeah.
Man, that's gonna be a rough news cycle. Okay. Yeah, Yachty. So we get to 28, and then we see some some locks here between, obviously Steven Vogt, Kurt Suzuki. These are guys that
But those are the names that jumped out to you.
yeah, those are just fly off the page. No, you obviously got Yachty, you got
Pujols.
So those are like, I mean, dang, dude, they played forever, bro. Like thinking about Albert Pujols being on this ballot later than like some of these players like had careers in the time where like Albert Pujols was on a bad contract.
Yeah.
Like this is my gosh. This is rough.
Damn, Andrew Miller though. Wow.
That was a whew.
But yeah, like
Lorenzo
we're just
Cain.
doing this current ballot. Like
Mhm.
I think there are 4 guys I confidently say are getting in. Ichiro, CC, Beltran, and Wagner. I think those 4 will get in.
Mhm.
I personally think A-Rod and Manny should get in. I think I've told both you guys my stance on the steroids.
I agree.
The way I kind of view it though also is that like it's a ding against you, but if you're like clear cut, you're still fine. Like I do hold it against Pettit, and like Pettit, who I think is like a borderline guy, the fact that he cheated to be borderline, he's not a Hall of Famer. That's kind of how I view it, like,
I like that.
across the board. So yeah, I mean, Omar Vizquel, I mean, he's had a lot of off the field things that I think certainly don't help when you're a borderline case. And again, like I don't think these are things that should necessarily eliminate someone from consideration. I think on field should be the primary thing, but I think it's fair to look into these things if you're talking about guys that are on the fence a little bit, especially when you're talking about people, down the list or whatever, like Jimmy Rollins, Roberto Clemente Award winner, Bobby Abreu, who's done like numerous work with the Red Cross, like Down syndrome kids, stuff like that. Mark Burley. Actually, Mark Burley was the Down syndrome kids and animal rights. Abreu was just disadvantaged kids in general. Kinsler as well. Like those 4 guys like are very strong community people. You can also throw in Utley, with his violence against animals stuff. Felix Hernandez, all that work he did against domestic violence in the Seattle, like Washington area. Like if you're talking about like, if you're trying to flip a coin on whether voting for that, I think these are things that can like certainly factor in for people a little bit, especially when you're looking at, Omar Vizquel, who has the domestic abuse, sexual harassment stuff, Pettit, PEDs, K-Rod, domestic abuse charges, Andrew Jones, DUIs, domestic abuse. Like, just because I think there's a very muddled middle, like across the board here. And I think you have some guys who have been very clean, and then you have some guys who have, had the cops call on them a couple times. So.
Well, 2 things. One, Murph, that was very impressive. I like that you went positive and then negative, And then the thing is, I want to see this matrix of like background checks and rap sheets you have on these baseball players. Like that is incredible what you just rattled up. Can we just talk about how impressive that was just now?
Yeah,
That's some good research, dude. Holy mackerel. Good stuff, Murph.
So yeah.
Gosh.
That's just something I think like it was something when I was thinking about like a hypothetical ballot I would do. Like I kind of had my like 6 clear cuts, and then I was like, if I were to pick 4 others, and then it was kind of like a muddled middle for me. And then I was kind of like, well, if I'm debating them and like they have this other stuff attached, it's just a no. Like I don't see the point. So yeah.
Yeah, you sort of, with your research, I had no idea about the Andrew Jones stuff. I was gonna argue that he should eventually get in. I think he will eventually, but he has sort of stalled on the ballots. I think he was at 61.6% this last ballot, but he only gained 11 votes from the last time around, so he sort of lost some steam. I think he'll get in eventually, but now I feel less good about that. Hearing about his off the field stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a battery charge that led to his wife filing for divorce. They reconciled later, but I mean, obviously that seemed pretty big at the time. I don't even, to be clear, also I didn't list everyone's things, just the things I like valued.
Sure.
Like he also got busted in a prostitution thing. I just don't really care about that.
Give the man a whole pass.
Well, it's just more, what's it called? Consenting adults and all that. I don't really care.
Sure. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. And I think what it boils down to is if you're voting, and fellas, if you are, you think about, am I going to feel good about making this vote? Am I going to feel good about putting this guy on the ballot? And for the ones who are doing community service and the ones who are actually helping out their communities, it's not like they just stop once they stop being players, and being named to the Hall of Fame might bring additional attention to these causes and things that they're working on within the community and might empower them to actually do more. You feel good about making that vote. You know what I mean? You're just like, all right, yeah, you're a borderline guy. I feel good about it. So I'm putting your name on the ballot. Whereas like, I can't, Osuna from or Marcelo Zuna or like, Roberto Zuna. It's like, oh, I don't feel good about that. Julio Urias, like, yeah, final out of the 2020 World Series. I don't like that photo anymore. I'm just like, don't like that. So, it's definitely like a feel thing. And it's just, I like that, Murph. If they're borderline, you kind of go with your gut based on like, is my vote going to impact the world in a positive way? And does it have that possibility? Then why wouldn't I do that? I like that. That's a good criteria. And thank you again for the research. Super impressive. Holy mackerel, Murph. Oh my God. You should go work for the feds. Let's see. So we're kind of rounding third here and heading home. And we kind of talked about a lot of this stuff, like the criteria it's changing, especially for pitchers. I think 3,000 hits, as Joey Votto and things like that, guys like that get up. It's not going to be like, when Votto retired, our first thought was like, oh, he's a mortal lock, right? Like he's an on-base god. Like this guy has been incredible basically his entire career. And then you kind of look at his counting stats and you're like, he's kind of not there. It's kind of a tough case to make. And so you start thinking about, okay, we're going to need to lean on analytics more and less of these counting stats as we go on in the future years. Mostly because batters actually don't value getting hits over getting, on base, however they can, so they're going to work the count more. They're not going to just swing blindly, so that's something that is going to change because I think 3,000 hits is going to kind of die, guys. It's not going to be a thing anymore.
I actually looked this up a little bit in prep for this, and there are actually only currently 4 MLB players that have over 2,000 hits.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any idea who the 4 are?
I know Freddie Freeman's one of them, right?
Freddie Freeman is the current leader, actually.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. I don't know.
Dodger favorite, Jose Altuve is number 2.
Of course.
Number 3, we were talking about the Bucks, Andrew McCutchen.
Nice.
Wow.
And then just crossed it this year, Goldie.
Dang.
And I'll remind you, a position player has never made the Hall of Fame with under 2,000 hits.
So we're gonna have to break the seal eventually because there's no way Freddie Freeman is missing the Hall. I'm sorry.
Well, no, he's over 2,000.
Sorry.
2,000's been the limit.
Yeah. No, we're gonna have to break that seal eventually. It's at the point where batters are too deliberate. So it's just and I think we all are on the same page about on-base percentage matters, and we're gonna favor players who, and even to this day, we look at Luis Arias and his high batting averages. We're just like, well, yeah, but like like he hits a lot of singles is like the stuff we say, right? And so, hits a lot of singles is why there's one guy on this ballot this year who's a mortal lock. Ichiro Suzuki was the king of he hits a lot of singles. But, we kind of look at Luis Arias a little differently now.
Doesn't he have the most hits on the ballot, though?
My gosh.
What?
Is that what it's going to turn into?
Ichiro doesn't have the most hits on the ballot.
What are you talking about?
A-Rod.
Oh,
well,
sorry.
Yeah.
No. A-Rod, I'm sorry. Like, not happening, dude. And even if you count his MPB hits for half, he clears A-Rod.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Come
on.
Yeah. Screw it, A-Rod. Like, get out of here.
I was going to mention, I forgot to mention earlier when we mentioned him, but I said mention several times. Jimmy Rollins, 2,400 hits. That's going to look better and better as well as time goes on.
Yeah.
Well, actually, when we talk about Utley, I actually kind of favor Rollins'
I was
argument
leaning Rollins
over
too.
Utley, just because I really do like the MVP, and the career counting stats are pretty high. Like, Utley gets a bigger of his boost, I think, on the defensive end to an extent. And I'm still a little murky on how I feel. I don't know if defensive stats have fully settled. I think we saw that when Fangraphs did their readjustment a couple years back. Like, Nick Ahmed's career WAR doubled overnight. So until like defensive WAR stabilizes a little bit, I'm like hesitant to like put a ton into DWAR at times, especially when we're talking about like someone's like 15-year career.
Yeah, I would say that's fair, but yeah, I agree that the Rollins versus Utley discussion is interesting. I think they should both get in, honestly.
So,
Eventually.
guys, it's time. We got to do the thing. It's time for rants, okay? But this week, I want you all to say one thing that you are thankful for before we go into rants. So we're going to do a positive, just like Murph did with, great off the field stuff and, criminal off the field stuff. Let's do I'm grateful for this before I rant about this. So, Dan, I need you to tell me one thing you're grateful for and begin your rant.
I am grateful for the UEFA Nations League affording San Marino the opportunity to win multiple games for the first time in their history. I love small, tiny countries getting, big success in international sports regardless, but in soccer especially. I don't care that it was against Liechtenstein both times. Go San Marino. I'm very happy for them. I hope they don't get destroyed in every single game in their new group now that they've been promoted to the C tier. My rant has long been teased for you, I'm gonna rant against Shaq, who once again has been bringing up his petty bullshit this time against Dwight Howard again. He is one of the most, just the constant pettiness that he brings on inside the NBA is one of the reasons that I'm not ecstatic that Inside the NBA is going to be back. That they announced that it's going to keep going on ESPN because despite how much fun it is to watch Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith and all the other guys, Shaq just interrupting with bringing everything down, just like refusing to acknowledge big man accomplishments because he, doesn't want them to overshadow him, has been a big pet peeve of mine for many years. And he's doing it again with he still hasn't gotten over the Superman thing from the dunk contest from 20 years ago.
Well, it's actually 20 years ago, huh? Damn. Wow. Okay. Well, that's a fair. Okay. You did promise me that it was coming. Murph. All right. One thing you're thankful for and a rant.
I am thankful for the McCaskies and their ownership tenure of the Chicago Bears. The ability to continuously they have a process and they follow it and they trust it. You have a coach on the outs in John Fox, draft a first-round quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, fire him after year one, and, let your first-round quarterback have a second head coach and offensive coordinator in 2 years. Then, have him run it out with Nagy, give him a new 1 year with Justin Fields, who you drafted in the first round, fire him, give Fields a second in 2 years. And then you have Eberflus come in, and now he's, doing a great job coaching the Bears. He's all set to get fired at the end of this season after another collapse. He's now 5-17 in one-score games. So they will give Caleb Williams 2 head coaches in 2 OCs in 2 years. And I think the cherry on top, anyone who watched the game, Cairo Santos, known for having a very weak leg. He hasn't missed a field goal in under 40 yards since 2019, but he's like very much almost a coin flip once you get out past 45 plus. But we're fine at 46. And then the Packers obviously block it because he has to kick it low, and the Bears lose a record-setting 11th straight game in the rivalry. Thank you so much, McCaskies. Virginia, I hope you live forever. 101, you're still going strong. My rant, I'm gonna stick with football here. I'm really annoyed when we get like kind of close to like perfection. We start improving things, but we just do it in the dumbest ways. And specifically what I'm talking about is the Sky Judge. Like the XFL, USFL, whatever, they had like a very clean system for this with the penalties and the remarking. The NFL and college, they're using this to an extent, and it is cleaning up the game a little bit with some of the senseless challenges, but it's like very just confusing, like what even is getting challenged versus not. They came into the Packers-Lions game a couple days ago to eject Brian Branch, which I thought was a good call. But you also saw these like this brutal hit like that Poyer put on that was kind of similar. Where's the consistency on that? It just seems very odd to me, like that some fouls are able to be reviewed, others aren't, and then they're coming out with this constant web, and it's just like, NFL, man, just review it all. Like, I don't know why you're making all these little carve out exceptions. People find it more annoying that like you have to almost be a lawyer to understand like what the specific rules you are allowed and not. Like, it does, yeah, sure, it makes the intense fans look really cool when they can explain these things, but the common people should be able to understand like your system. Like, making it complicated isn't a feature, that's a bug.
Thank you, Collin. That's a great. I like that. That's really good. I'm grateful for the Philadelphia Eagles turning it around and turning into what is shaping up to be potentially a NFC Championship run. You know, like, we have a legit shot at the NFC title game with this team. And I was listening to a YouTuber talk about our team and our draft needs, and he just started reeling off names of players who were still on our team. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm grateful for Howie Roseman, because he's been amazing. And he has drafted, it's a spotty first round draft record, spotty record in general, but like, he's been writing an absolute heater, putting together a team that is so deep, and it's amazing to see the results play out on the field. I'll have one more person I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for Jerry Jones refusing to pull the curtains at Cowboy Stadium because, you know, it looks good on TV. That's what we need, is another excuse that your wide receiver one can make about, you know, not catching a pass from Cooper Rush. So it cost him a touchdown. Of course, the blinds are the reason why the Cowboys lost 34-6. That was like my favorite part of that weekend. That meltdown was like one of my favorite things to happen in sports. But it feels like it happens every year, just at different times. You know, it's like a holiday that you can count on. You just don't know when it is. But Cowboy fans melting down is something that I'm grateful for every year. And for my rant, Dan, have you watched our football team lately?
As little as I've...
We're so fucked, dude. It's so bad. All right, so I'm watching Nebraska versus USC, and it's Dylan Raiola versus our new guy. I believe his name is Jordan Mailata. Jordan Mailata?
Mailata. Sounds right.
His last name is Mailata. The number of near picks this guy threw that day, like, he was trying to give me a heart attack. These balls were very ill-advised balls. That he looked like Brett Favre on crack. Like, it was really bad. Like, he looked like Brett Favre, like, coming down from painkillers. Like, it was something to watch. Like, oh my Lord. USC football is in trouble. Lincoln Riley is on the hot seat. I cannot imagine who we could replace him with to make this program relevant again. But we've been trying the same stupid formula of, let's fire the coach and get a new guy, for the past, like, freaking 2 decades. Okay, like, since Pete Carroll left, we have not been able to find a coach that is going to steady the ship for us. And we keep blaming the coach and keep firing them and keep thinking that it's their fault. Guys, look in the mirror. Boosters, look in the mirror. This is insane. All right, we can't do this for another decade, okay? Like, we're not supposed to be Pete Carroll era good, okay? That is an aberration. Okay, that is something that is amazing and happened once. Stop chasing the dragons of the past. All right, like, it's not going to happen. Just build a good, solid football team with an identity. For the love of God, we look like the freaking Cleveland Browns right now. It is so bad. So please stop, okay? And get a real football team in there. And if you're going to ride with Riley and stop filtering fucking leaks into the media. I'm tired of this, okay? Like, we don't want to keep hearing about how our coach is going to get fired every year, all right? End of rant. Sorry.
Hey, it could be worse.
Saying,
I mean,
Pete Carroll is available.
Yeah. But what's Pete doing? You want him that bad?
As far as blue bloods go, I mean, Florida State's down bad right now.
Hey, man. I can only worry about the team that I care about. The one that they ask me about season tickets every year, and I just stare at that email for a really long time, and I'm just like, you know what? I think I'd rather donate money to the Daily Trojan, you know, like, than like go to a football game this year. That's how I feel about my school right now. So thanks for joining me today, guys. Thanks as always to my co-hosts Dan and Collin. It's awesome to have you guys, and we'll see you same time next week. Thank you again for listening to Everyone Hates Us. Give us 5 stars on any platform that you're listening to us on. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, tune in live. It's not like you're doing anything at work anyway. Don't lie to us, okay? Just listen to us talk, okay? So we'll see you next Tuesday. And until then, Godspeed. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.